All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we come back to our second part, and what you were working with was line segments. They had an endpoint. So now we work with something that doesn't have an endpoint on both sides. It's going to have an arrow on one side or on both. And so these are rays. What we can say about a ray, so we know that those represent our x value. Everything along this way up to this point right here. So 0 is less than x. Is less than what? And so that arrow, this idea that this guy is going on forever and ever and ever. And how do we reference that? What do we call that? And so I like to think about Buzz Lightyear, to infinity and beyond. All because of that arrow. Now what I want you to understand is that infinity is a concept. It's the idea that something is getting so big that we can't measure it, that it goes on forever and it's never ever going to be able to be measured in any way. And in this case, there's always something bigger. You can always find something more than the value that we throw out. So a million, well, there's 2 million. A billion, there's 1,000,000,001. But as we write this down, we can also write this without the inequality symbol. And so copy this down when I'm done. But, so what's going to happen is, we're going to come and we're going to chop that part off. So we start with this, and don't copy this down yet. And so what we come and we do is we chop off that part. We're going to chop off whatever part has infinity. What we want is x on the left side. So how do I get x on the left side? So let's clear this out. And so what I'm going to do is take our inequality symbol and flip it over. Now that x is on the left side, notice that the inequality symbol also rotated as well with x. So now I can say x is greater than 0. And for our set builder notation, now we can say x such that x is greater than 0. So then the last part here is, how do I write the interval notation? And that one's actually pretty easy. So we started with 0, and it's parentheses because it's an open circle, comma, over here is infinity. And notice that I didn't put a bar here. And so why are we going to use parentheses there? That another note is that you cannot equal infinity. Not possible. So we never put an equals there. Whoops. Okay, so what do we get? We get 0, comma, infinity with a parenthesis on both sides. Okay, so let's take a look at another example and doing just the same thing. Now notice that this arrow is going to the left. So how is that different? So what that tells me over here is on this side, we're going to negative infinity. Less than x, less than, and my endpoint over here is 8. But because it's a solid dot, we put a bar. So we have negative infinity is less than x, is less than positive 8. And it's less than or equal to because of that solid dot. So that's why we're including this guy, because of that guy. So doing the same thing. So don't copy down what I'm going to put here until we're done with this part. So what are we going to do? We're going to come and we're going to chop off that part right there. But going back to this guy, x is already on the left-hand side. So you know what? Erase that, and we're done. And so set builder is x such that x is less than or equal to 8. Okay, so the last parts of what we do is that interval notation. So you can't equal infinity, so it's parentheses, negative infinity, comma, negative 8. But this time we use a bracket because we have a solid dot. Oh, what did I forget over here? So over here, so parentheses, negative infinity, negative 8 with a bracket. All right, so let's take a look at our most complicated example. And so here we have two pieces. We have two rays. So we have to do this twice. So what I want you to notice that there's two parts of the number line graph. We have to write an inequality or an interval for each part of that graph. And a union is used to show that two sets belong to the same graph or function, and it's denoted by this symbol. So what I like to say in class is that we're going to marry the two sets together, and a marriage is a union between a man and a woman. So when we marry the sets, we union them together. Okay, so as we go through this part, so the inequality notation with infinity. So negative infinity is on this side, and that's a terrible looking infinity. On this side is positive infinity. X can be inside this interval, and we're missing the negative 5 value. On this side, X could also be on this section of the graph, and it's stuck in between 2 and infinity. But because we have a solid dot, it's equal to. Okay, so X can be in this location, or X can be in that location. And so as we write it, so we have negative infinity is less than X is less than negative 5. Or 2 is less than or equal to X is less than infinity. Okay, so then what are we trying to do on this part? So here's what's kind of nice is that that's my answer there. And let me copy that over. Okay, so what do we want to do at this part is we want to get rid of infinities. So you know what? I'm going to chop that piece off. And as soon as I chop off the infinity there, X is on the left side. We're good. Over here, whoops. If we come and we chop off the infinity section, we're left with that. But keep in mind that, but keep in mind that we want X to be on the left-hand side. I don't know why it's doing that. All right. Okay, so don't know why it's doing that to me right now. Okay, so I'll come and I'll just rewrite it. We'll get rid of all of that. Okay, so what we have is X is less than negative 5. Or 2 is less than or equal to X. But be careful, don't write it down yet, because we want to flip this part over. And that looks kind of funky like that, so let's kind of clean this up a little bit. So X is greater than or equal to 2. Okay, so then the last part is our interval. So with our interval, what do we have? We have from negative infinity on this side, you can't equal infinity, all the way to negative 5 in parentheses. On this side, we have a bracket with 2 because it's a solid dot. It's not open. That's why I did that there. Comma, and on the right side, infinity. Okay, so how do we write it? Oh, we forgot something. So, sorry, to finish up the last part, so now we copy down that interval. Union. So we say or with inequalities, and for intervals we use union with the piece that's on the other side. All right, so with this, I want you to take these examples to finish up the last three that are on the front side of your worksheet, and then start to move on to the back side. And notice the bottom ones when it's now a vertical line, and think about what letter that you're going to use.